Trapper is Dead by Daylight's first killer. When you look at the game or killer list, he appears first. He has always been around since literally the very beginning, and during all that time, one thing has stayed consistent. The same thing is that he has always been the worst killer in all of Dead by Daylight. Trapper has always been a killer who is slow, clunky, obtuse, and overall just uninteresting to play. I believe that unless Trapper gets a rework, he will remain bottom 1, forever F tier. So let's start with what makes Trapper so bad by explaining his power, and it isn't anything complex. Trapper's power is he picks up and puts down traps. That's already red flag number 1. He carries 2 by default, which can be increased with add-ons. All of Trapper's traps spawn randomly across the map and must be collected and placed around. When a trap is activated or disarmed, he can go back to the trap to rearm it. His power is incredibly simple. I mean, he's the Trapper. He just traps pallets. Trapper's power is probably the lowest skill floor and skill ceiling in the entire game. You put down a trap on a pallet or window or some other key part of the map where survivors run through very often, and you trap them. That's it. There's no real insane skill expression with Trapper, no crazy turns or flicks like on Blight or Oni, nor is there any precise movement or aiming you have to do like with Huntress, Wesker, Deathslinger, Xenomorph, etc, etc. Your power is just so simple that there's nothing really insane you can do with it. Oh wow, I got trapped in Shack pallet, what a surprise. Oh wow, I got trapped at the window by Shack. Wow, that's really insane. Wow, I've never seen a Trapper do that before. At most, you can maybe place down a trap in a bush or somewhere unexpected, but that's really the higher upper limits of his potential with his kit. And if we compare his kit to literally every other killer in the game, there's one thing that sets him apart and not in the good way. The fact that he is the only killer in all of Dead by Daylight who requires you to go around the map and manually get your power. You don't start with your maximum amount. Sure, you could maybe argue Plague is like this too, having to go around the map to get Corrupt Purge, but she still at least has Vile Purge on her, and maybe you could argue the reloading killers, Trickster and Huntress, but that's different, so I'd argue it's completely different. Due to the fact that Trapper's traps just randomly spawn around the map, you have to go out of your way to get your power. Compare this to every other trapping killer in the game. Hag, Skull Merchant, Freddy, and maybe Singularity, I'd count him as a trapping killer. All of these killers spawn with their traps already on them and can place them whenever they want. Along with that is that Hag, Freddy, and Singularity, when they reach their max amount of traps placed, what will happen is just the oldest trap that you have placed will get replaced by your newest one. So you can just keep placing them around the map constantly without needing to actually go out of your way to remove it. And then there's Skull Merchant who can just remove them cross map with the push of a button, so effectively the exact same thing. Trapper is a slow killer with 0 chase potential and 0 map pressure, as his power doesn't really do anything in a chase. The only sort of quote-unquote tech he has is that you can fake placing a trap to make a survivor leave a loop. Along with that is that placing his traps takes a long time, which is something Behavior tried to compensate for recently by giving him haste after he puts down a trap, and I hate haste plain and simple. It feels like whenever Behavior doesn't know what to do with the power, they just bam, slap on haste, but that's a topic for another video. 7.5% haste is a pretty substantial amount, but again, to get it you'd have to spend 2.5 seconds placing down a trap first. This change was more or less about making it quicker to roll out and place your traps rather than, an actual chase buff, the weakest part of his kit, so I don't know why they buff that. However, even with this buff, he still is just the slowest trapping killer in the game overall. Placing his traps takes 2.5 seconds. Hag can literally place 2 traps in the time it takes for Trapper to place just 1. Skull Merchant, Freddy, and Singularity can all place their traps in loop while moving and maintaining line of sight. Then, not even talking about how slow he is to just place traps, is how little mobility Trapper gets. Of course he gets 5 seconds of haste, but Hag can teleport cross map instantly and get hits, Freddy can teleport to generators, and Singularity can teleport to survivors and become unstoppable, and Skull Merchant gets, of course, 3% infinite haste if a survivor has claw trap on them. And chases are a marathon, not a sprint, so I would rather take a 3% constant haste buff over a 5-second haste any day. I wonder where this discussion has come up before. So Trapper is slow, clunky, and overall just annoying to play. Surely if Survivor lands on the trap, the payoff must be amazing, right? Well, you'd think so, since they stay in place when they're trapped, but there's just a teensy tiny little catch to it. It's all RNG based. Yep, every time a survivor tries to escape the trap, it's an RNG chance when they get out, meaning you can get out on the first try, or the third try, or maybe the 6th try, since it's capped at 6 attempts. What this means is that if you hear a survivor get trapped relatively close by and you think you can get them, it's all an RNG chance if you can actually get there and get the grab or hit them and down them. It's the same thing. Since of course they could just escape on their first try. So all you effectively did was just injure them, unless you have an add-on for that, but I'll get to those later. Compare that again to Hag, who can teleport instantly, and now after the buffs basically always guarantees a hit, and when you teleport you're near the survivor, so you're already in chase with them. Skull Merchant making them constantly broken, slowing them down, getting haste and always knowing where they are, and Singularity being able to close the gap instantly while getting Super Bamboozle, Spirit Fury, Brutal Strength, and Enduring. Trapper gets an RNG chance on if his power works or not. And then guess what? You have to then pick up the trap and move it again, or you could rearm it, but if you do rearm it, survivors will remember, oh hey, that survivor got trapped over there. I'm just not going to loop over there and go near that pallet. And then again, you have to go pick up the trap, go find a new place to put it down, spend 2.5 seconds placing it down, and then wonder if a survivor will actually ever run into it. All for a sweet RNG chance on if you'll actually get there in time or not. Then we get to the final and worst part about him that I already mentioned before, and that's that his power spawns around the map scattered around. So you can't just walk through the map and place your traps down wherever you want like Hag or Singularity. No, it's place 1 or 2 traps down, go somewhere to collect some traps, and then you continue rolling out and placing traps. His rollout is so slow and annoying compared to everyone else who can just push a button and move on. Along with that is his traps have to be very, very precise, or survivors can sometimes just run past him if they're not placed directly in the loop. Compared to everyone else, yada yada, you get the point. It sucks. Let's recap his kit very quickly. He can slowly place down his traps that can be easily disarmed while carrying a very small amount on him at once, with an RNG chance to work that then require you to spend more time rearming and adjusting them, making sure it'll actually capture the survivor, all for them to get away on their first or second attempt. Then if you do manage to get them in time, you still have to go back to that trap, collect it, and replace it again. His power is slow, clunky, RNG dependent, map dependent, and most importantly, boring. Genuinely speaking, compared to the rest of the cast, Trapper just isn't interesting. You have evil robots, aliens, mutated abominations, spirits, guys with chainsaws, the literal embodiment of darkness and carnage, and Trapper's just a guy in a mask who places down bear traps. Though this isn't a bad thing. Sometimes simple is best, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, despite all these flaws, he still is played very often, though this could of course be, tied to him being an easy beginner killer who's on the poster of the game, so people just want to pick him naturally. Now, some people might argue Freddy or Myers are worse than him, but I would heavily disagree. Freddy can teleport and places traps over obstacles, which basically only him and Singularity can do, and Myers gets insta-down or instant kills, along with getting an insane lunge and fast vault speed. Trapper only has slow placing RNG traps that randomly spawn around the map. But there is one saving grace for Trapper, one singular thing that keeps him out of the F tier. That is his add-ons, and dear God are they good. Trapper, in my honest opinion, has like top 5 potential for best add-ons in the entire game. He has add-ons that make it so if a survivor is caught in a trap and they escape by themselves, they are downed, basically always getting a kill confirmed, making it so traps can rearm themselves when stepped on, or randomly picking one to rearm by itself, making the traps darker and harder to see, place the traps faster, make it so survivors become injured if they want to disarm a bear trap, make it so it takes longer to disarm the trap, and of course carry more traps. Although with this add-on, there's one huge caveat to it. With this add-on, all traps spawn with you, which is amazing. It deletes one of Trapper's worst and slowest aspects about his entire kit, but then makes it so once you do place down a trap, you can never pick them up and adjust them ever again. They fixed Trapper's biggest problem just to make it just as bad, because if you know Trapper has this add-on, by not seeing any traps placed around the map randomly, you'll know that he has this add-on. So if you see, a trap in Shaq, you'll know Shaq is forever trapped. He will never be able to move it. But I guess this is a good and bad thing, because then, survivors will never want to run there because they know that place will always be trapped. So it's a form of zone denial, but you're trading the ability to move your traps around. I'm not sure if it's really worth it. Trapper genuinely is held together by his add-ons. His many, many, many great add-ons, like without them, I'm dead serious, he would be the only F tier killer. He would be the bottom 1 killer. So is there any real way to fix Trapper at this point? The only potential way I see to fix him is just a full rework, but at that point, he'd probably just turn into a completely different killer. But I mean, at this point, it wouldn't even be a bad thing. You can't really make him worse. I mean, you could make it so his traps automatically spawn with him, or replace themselves like every other trapping killer, like the entity is just hiding in his satchel or placing them for him. And then make it so instead of RNG chance to escape, it will just be one long animation to get unstuck, like 8 seconds or something. So you'll always get a guaranteed set amount of value instead of having to worry about if they get out on their first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, etc. What really sucks is that the Trapper has so many amazing cosmetics. Like, he is the first killer to get an exclusive exclusive Mori in the game, but you know, you'd have to pay $15 for it and play Trapper, so you have your work cut out for you. I really don't believe that DBD's poster child deserves this. I feel like he genuinely deserves better. But in the end, Trapper is an extremely flawed killer with one of, if not the slowest kiss in the entire game with zero skill expression to it, RNG aspects, and just not feeling interesting to play as or go against, but he is solely saved and held together by his god tier add-ons. I hope he gets an actual rework because this is just not a kit you can just buff and fix, as he is flawed on every front and needs a rework badly, which is a very common aspect among a lot of the older killers. But with all that said and done, I won't trap you here any longer, so go eat a good meal, brush your teeth, and have a damn good one. Peace.